This was Giancarlo Stanton's 33rd home run in a 60-game stretch, an MLB record. If you attended just one game out of those 60, you had a better chance to see him hit a home run than you did correctly guessing the outcome of a coin toss. From 2010 to 2013, Adrian Peterson accumulated over 4,300 yards and 36 touchdowns. The rest of his team, offense, defense, and special teams combined, only scored 121. During this time, he scored over 25% of the touchdowns for his team. Later, he hit his kid with a stick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this season, broke the record for consecutive 20-point games scored for his 127th game in a row scoring 20 points, going back nearly 2 full seasons. Sports has a very mathematical scale to their greatness. Comparing incredible stat lines like the previous mentioned athletes to an average pro, you will tend to see the gap in between a good player and a truly outstanding one. And more importantly, you have numbers to back it up. What if I told you stretches like these happen in different industries as well? They are simply just harder to keep count of. People don't score points in plumbing, yet there definitely is the best plumber of all time out there. And I'm not talking about you, but you. You might have a chance. Now, what if I asked you who had the best filmmaking stretch of all time? Would you say Tarantino? He's never missed. Or maybe John Ford, the man with the most directing Oscars. Or maybe it's Julia Ducournau, who is only 2 movies in, about to be 3, but it looks like she's a generational talent. These are all fantastic answers. But what if I said I have a data-driven model to give me an exact score, based off completely biased variables, that can decide once and for all which director had the best stretch of films of all time? In order to calculate the score, I take a director's work from the start of their incredible stretch and measure how many films it lasted. I then take the overall IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes score of each film, averaging and rounding to the nearest decimal point. And what I get is what I like to call an average cinema score. For example, Jeremy Saulnier, with his 5 films under his belt of Murder Party, Blue Ruin, Green Room, Hold the Dark, and Rebel Ridge, ended with a total cinema score of 59.94, rounded to 60, out of a possible 100 points. 50 being average. We're not on some bullshit American school system.
Got it.
Good. Let's reduce these seminal pieces of art to mere numbers, starting with the legend himself, Rob Reiner. I feel there is no better way to start than to honor the man who passed away in 2025. His stretch of films was truly fantastic, starting all the way back in 1984. Son of famous comedian and Mel Brooks collaborator Carl Reiner, the young Rob got into directing with This Is Spinal Tap, the audacious and original mockumentary about the seminal group Spinal Tap and the ridiculous life they lead on the edge of obscurity.
So you'd have to
Just a year later, he directs The Sure Thing, starring a green John Cusack. The Sure Thing is a road trip college comedy about finding true love. Critics and fans both adored it, many agreeing that it is one of Reiner's best films. Then, in 1986, Stand By Me, one of my personal favorite films, and most likely the best Stephen King true-to-form adaptation, with an ending that really makes you understand how important the time spent with friends are to the meaning of life. The year 1987 produces The Princess Bride and gives birth to a young Fred Savage, an absolute classic of cinema that will no doubt go on forever in the annals of time. Just some lines alone might be quoted for the next multiple generations. 2 years later, in 1989, When Harry Met Sally came out. Another road trip romance comedy film, but this film represented not just Reiner's outstanding directing chops, but it changed the entire landscape of romantic comedies from the base up. There is a specific line, rom-coms before Harry and Sally met.
I'll roll down the window.
Then, in 1990, he released Misery, maybe the number 2 Stephen King adaptation of all time, with a lead performance by Kathy Bates that landed her an Oscar alongside a classic James Caan character. This movie has more ankle breakers than Kyrie, and to wrap up his 8-year run of putting up peak cinema performances, he ends it with the classic courtroom military drama, A Few Good Men. Nicholson and Cruise in their primes, a great script, and fantastic direction. Adding up these totals, calculating, doing the math, Reiner ends his score with an impressive 83.2 out of a possible 100 points. A job well done, and a career that will be remembered forever. Next up in the chamber is an active director, one with still a lot in the tank, the Lisan al-Gaib himself, Denis Villeneuve. His run is easily one of my personal favorites. I've been following his career since 2013, and everything that he's released has just been otherworldly. But his run actually starts a little bit earlier with a fantastic film, 2010's Incendies. The film centers on a family, separated but coming together in the harshness of the Middle East. Powerful and provocative, it put Villeneuve on the map as someone to be on the lookout for. 3 years later, he gave us Prisoners, a TikTok favorite. People will talk about this movie any chance they get, and I don't blame them. It's genuinely fantastic. I can't say anything that someone hasn't already said, but it's great. That same year, though, he also gave us Enemy, one of his lower-rated films overall, but one that I have a love-hate relationship with. I love it because it's super creative and unique and weird, but I hate it because its basic premise is the one I tried to write myself multiple times, only to realize I was just writing the plot of Enemy. Sicario came out in 2015 and is a masterpiece, maybe one of the best films of the 21st century. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Then came his Oscar darling film Arrival, which is also fantastic. Listen, I just love this guy. What can I say? A year later, he gave us Blade Runner 2049 in 2017, a slow, methodical exploration of a Ridley Scott universe that is just stunning to look at. Deakins shot it, and it's one of the prettiest films ever made, maybe. It does get some minus points, though, for having Jared Leto. Then came Dune 1 in 2021 and Dune 2 just a few years ago in 2024. They're both really good. I think they are nearly perfect in visual storytelling and world building, and I've never read the book, so the fact that I completely understood the plot in one viewing is honestly impressive. Can't wait for the third to wrap these babies up. But in just over 10 years, Villeneuve directed 8 films that netted him an average cinema score of 83 even. Now this is where personal bias comes in. I just watched Project Hail Mary, and it got my brain thinking, these motherfuckers have not missed. Phil Lord and Chris Spiller have been around making movies since I was watching Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs as a kid, and every film they touch is fantastic. So I decided to add them just for fun. I was disappointed to find out they only had produced Spider-Verse and Lego Batman. I had thought maybe one of them directed it, but I was just misremembering things. So we're just going to be talking about the ones that they directed, starting off with the aforementioned Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It's a classic, and is genuinely still funny to this day. That scene when he kills the entire family with snowballs is insane, and the whole movie is like that. It's just a great time. Then in 2012, they gave us 21 Jump Street, one of the best comedies of its time. It gave us back comedic Ice Cube, and it showed that Tatum wasn't just a hot bod. You could be funny too. Then, in 2014, they gave us the masterpiece of The Lego Movie, no pun intended. I fucking love this movie, okay? If you put a gun to my head and force me to pick a movie to watch before I die, there's like a 9 out of 10 chance I'd pick it. That same year, though, they did drop the sequel to 21 Jump Street called 22 Jump Street, which everyone agreed was slightly worse than the original, but it was still really good. It was still a good, fun time, honestly. And it also gave us My Name is Jeff, so, that happened. Then they stuck to producing for what seems like forever, only to come back to direct Project Hail Mary. It was great. Critics and fans adored it, people who loved the book adored it, and that never happens. And it's just a great little joyride about the beauty of space and friendship, and it's just a nice little hopeful little movie. With only 5 films under their belt, their cinema score ends up being an 81.8. Not a bad outing at all for old Lord and Miller. From the young heads wanting to be overly creative with everything, to the old head that redefined the word. David Lynch, an all-time great, a legend, simply. His run of films is unreal, and it lasted decades. Truly one of the GOATs. But it all started with 1977's Eraserhead, his most spiritual movie, for some reason that only he knows. It focuses on the stress of parenthood and the anxieties that come with it. It's creepy and gross, but honestly really funny. Lynch's sense of humor is his most underrated aspect of his films, in my opinion. 3 years later, he gave us the classic Oscar-snubbed film The Elephant Man, one of my favorites of all time. That one scene with the carnival music, I had nightmares about that for days afterwards. Sir Anthony Hopkins is young in it, which is dope, and he gives a truly one-of-a-kind doctor performance. It's a great film about what it means to truly be human in a world filled with corruption seeping out of every corner. From there, we do get a dip, unfortunately, his version of Dune in 1984, a kind of cult classic that is really weird and boring and looks like dog shit. We can blame the studio interference though. Lynch was put into a terrible spot and even suffered from depression after the film wrapped. It was so stressful. They should have just let Jodorowsky take a swing, but 2 years later, Lynch is back and firing on all cylinders when he released Blue Velvet. Pabst Blue Ribbon is a line I scream every time I see a PBR can, logo, or truck. It's amazing. He did the show Twin Peaks next. It's great, though we won't be counting it towards his overall score, just wanted to shout it out. But from there, in 1990, he made Wild at Heart, a crazy ride of fucked up things with an all-star cast. In 1992 came Fire Walk with Me, the Twin Peaks film. Everyone loves it, and for good reason. If there's a specific film that he will be remembered for, it might just be this one. 5 years later, he did Lost Highway, which features one of my favorite opening shots of all time. Then in 1999, for some random reason, partnering with Disney for distribution no less, he made The Straight Story, a classic feel-good Lynch story about a man in a wagon. I haven't seen it, and I would be interested to do so. People say it's actually really good, that you can barely tell it's a Lynch movie. And then to finally really confuse everyone, in 2001, he ends his amazing run with Mulholland Drive, a classic, confusing mess that makes you rethink everything you've ever seen. It's a masterpiece in tension and in filmmaking, and one of the original films that you have to watch again and again and again to try to understand what actually happened in the last third of that movie. Plus, Billy Ray Cyrus. Why was he there? That's my main question. Lynch's incredible filmography puts his overall cinema score at only a 75.3. Blame IMDb. Their scores are ridiculously low for his movies. I don't know what they're on, but whatever, numbers are numbers. The summer blockbuster wouldn't be a thing without our next contestant, Steven Spielberg, who has one of the strongest stretches of all time, starting with Jaws. Again, one of my favorite movies of all time. I feel like I've said that a lot in this video, but it's all true. Jaws is awesome. 2 years later, he released 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It changed special effects in Hollywood forever, and it might be getting a sequel coming out this year with Disclosure Day. Who knows? No one knows. But then, for some reason, Spielberg made a movie called 1941, a film that I had straight up never heard of in my life. I've never heard anyone talk about it or anything. It's like an SNL movie with all of the classic, and John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd are in it, but it's about Pearl Harbor, but it's a comedy. I have no idea. It has pretty mediocre reviews and will most likely take him out of the running of first place, which is hilarious because the next film he made was Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is considered a perfect movie by most. And then, a year later, in 1982, he made E.T. I mean, come on. Then he produced and directed a segment in the Twilight Zone movie. Hard to do, but I'm counting it anyways just because it's fun to talk about that insane movie and all of the production hassle, like the helicopter crash that killed 2 kid actors and Vic Morrow. It's insane. But then, to wrap up his run, we land on 1984's Temple of Doom. Some people say it's better. I say the main woman in Temple of Doom is annoying and complains the entire time, so it's worse. It definitely scarred me as a little kid, I will tell you that much. It's also responsible for the PG-13 rating to come into existence. Thank you, Steven, for all that you do. This leads his score to be an underwhelming 76.7. Blame Dan Aykroyd, as I do in everyday life. Truthfully, I was going to stop there. This is a long video already, but I just needed to add 2 more, just for experimental sakes, just so I knew, honestly. Starting with Christopher Nolan, every film bro's favorite, and a man I deeply respect and admire, if anything just for the suits that he wears to set every day. Nolan started in 2005 with Batman Begins, a sick movie with a goofy voice and a kinda goofy looking costume sometimes, but it still holds a place in my heart. Just a year later, in 2006, he came out with The Prestige, maybe his most underrated film. It's crazy, but you clearly see his style poking out of every corner of that early endeavor. Then, in 2008, he made his magnum opus, The Dark Knight, a movie that is so baller, that emanates so much sauce, that the plot doesn't even exist. There is no plot to that movie. It has something to do with housing districts in China or something. But who cares? Joker and Batman. 2 years later, we get Nolan at his full power with Inception, mind-bending, insane-looking, incredible cast with an ending that still has people talking now. And that's just Nolan for you. Then we get The Dark Knight Rises. Kind of shitty? That Robin reveal just proved that he's never read a comic in his life, and Bane is so goofy. Why Tom Hardy? We should have had Luis Guzman. I mean, it was right there. Then we get Interstellar, the surprise Matt Damon movie of the century. It's good and mind-bending in the right ways, but that score is what really carries it. I always hated that his daughter's name was Murph. It's a dumb name for a great film. Now, you might notice that I didn't talk about Memento. It's because I watched that movie stoned and only remembered hating it. Blame the weed. And I've still yet to give it another chance, though Guy Pearce does look iconic. This leads Nolan to be looking at a cinema score of 85. God damn, IMDb loves Christopher Nolan. And I only stopped at Dunkirk because does anyone really like that movie? Like, really? Harry Styles in a World War II movie? Really? Does anyone really want that? Okay, anyways, moving on. Finally, we get to our last contenders, the Coen brothers. They start off with a bang with Blood Simple in 1984, a great little crime noir thriller starring one of their soon-to-be wives and multiple Oscar winner Frances McDormand. From there, they go on to one of my favorite films again, 1987's Raising Arizona, an all-time Nick Cage performance, but I have to say it turns into a cartoon in the last 15 minutes, which was a bit strange. 3 years later, in 1990, we get the much darker Miller's Crossing, a pretty messed up film about murder and cover-ups and backstabbings. Then, just a year later, they released Barton Fink, one of my favorite Turturro performances, and John Goodman is just amazing in everything that he's ever been in. It's a crazy film. I love the twist. I love the fire at the end. It's just a great time. After another 3-year break, we get into 1994's The Hudsucker Proxy. Never heard of it. Again, honestly, some of these directors just have random movies that exist, but it has Tim Robbins, so maybe it's good. I don't know. The reviews did definitely go down with this one, though. But of course, this is all leading to 1996's Fargo. A masterpiece, one of the most rewatchable films of all time. It's genuinely hilarious, but also extremely dark and depraved at points. It's such a unique film with such a great tone, and William H. Macy was just, hey, bingo, lights out, man. Oh, geez, geez. Dude, I should have listened before I tried to do the thing. In 1998, they moved on to The Big Lebowski. John Goodman is so good. It's kind of weird now that he looks like the shell of his former self these days, but I'm glad he's healthy, at least. That's good. He just seems like a nice guy, though. And we end the Coens' legendary streak with one of their most underrated films at the turn of the century, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I am a sucker for on-screen singing, and this film has some of the best there is. Plus another fantastic John Goodman performance. Just love that guy. This ends their run and leaves them with an average cinema score of 81. Thus concludes my experiment, leading to, drumroll please, the winner of the best directing run of all time, according to Nate Finds Gold, being Christopher Nolan. God damn it. Of course it's him. I didn't want it to be him. It's biased. IMDb loves him so much for no reason. Tell me in what world that The Dark Knight Rises has an 8.4, but In the Mood for Love has an 8. Like, it just doesn't compute in my brain. But good for him. He wins everything. You might as well win this. He's due for an Oscar soon, too. Don't worry. But this will lead me to the final segment. Surprises. The biggest surprise for me was finding out that Steven Spielberg directed a weird Pearl Harbor movie that everyone on Earth forgot about. Other than that, Chris Nolan was probably the most surprising one. Like, Batman Begins is rated higher than literally all of the Coen brothers' stretch of films. I just don't see it. Same with Eraserhead only getting a 7.2. Like, I know it's weird, but it's better than The Dark Knight Rises, and it's like half the runtime. I should remove Nolan, but I won't. He wins. Who cares? The outrage needs to be shouted into the ether. But as always, thank you for watching, and let me know who's your favorite. Let me know some other runs. You know, there's a million directors out there that probably could stand a chance with this little formula. So, you know, there could definitely be a part 2 at some point. Let me know what you think. Comment, like, and subscribe. Come back for more. Thank you for watching.